Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with the Idaho Dispatch, and this is the fourth episode of the Dispatch where we are going to be interviewing folks in the political realm here in the state of Idaho, as well as talking about the latest and greatest stories in the world of politics here in Idaho. So before we get into the interview with our guest, let me first thank our sponsors, who you can see down on the ticker down below: Alex Kincaid Law, Prestige Property Management, the Carl Felt Center, North End Real Estate, and Idaho Chooses Life. These are the companies that are choosing to support the Idaho Dispatch and our efforts to bring Idahoans good, neutral, independent journalism. And we hope that that's what we're providing for you guys and giving you some insight into things that are happening across the state. And, we really appreciate these companies who are willing to support our efforts. And so thank you to all of our sponsors. And then if you guys are not, again, we have to continue to grow the Idaho Dispatch. And the only way to make that happen is by increasing our subscribers. Right now, we're, I think, somewhere in the range of 360, 365 monthly subscribers. We really appreciate all of you guys who are supporting our efforts, whether monthly or yearly. It's all very much appreciated. And our goal by the end of this year is to get to 500 monthly subscribers. So thank you to all of our subscribers. If you do want to sign up, you can go to idahodispatch.com/subscribe. It's $2.97 a month, or you can do more. We certainly appreciate it if you do more. But at the very least, it's $2.97 a month. Even with the really bad economy, we hope that $3 a month is worth it to keep the Idaho Dispatch around for the long term and supporting our effort to bring you guys that journalism where we do our best to be as unbiased as possible. So with that in mind, let me bring in our guest for this evening, Nicholas Contos, and he is the Bonneville County Republican Party chairman. How are you today, sir?
Good, Greg. Thanks for the chance to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been, obviously I've had my health issues. I've been wanting to reach out to a number of folks and do interviews about some of the issues that have been taking place. And with my health issues recently, that kind of took a back seat to reaching out to you. And so I'm glad I finally got in touch with you about maybe, I don't know, I guess some people may consider it inside baseball or inside political stuff. But definitely, I think it's a newsworthy story, and so we're going to do our best to reach out to both sides of this issue and let you guys talk about what is happening with the Bonneville County Republican Party. And so, I guess maybe the first thing that you can do is give people a little bit of the backstory on why the state of Idaho. Or excuse me, not the state of Idaho, the Idaho GOP, the state GOP party, as well as Tom Luna himself personally, is suing the Bonneville County GOP and a number of the executive members of that committee. So if you can maybe give some of the backstory from your guys' perspective on what took place and what's happening right now.
Sure, you bet. Yeah. Frankly, it was kind of shocking to us as the Bonneville County Republican Party. We're all volunteers in the Republican Party. I'm not a professional politician, and neither is anybody really that makes up a party official. And so we were kind of shocked when about 2 or 3 days before the Republican primary, we got served by a lawsuit, and Tom Luna, the chairman of the state Republican Party, had sued our county central committee, as well as individually had sued each one of the leaders on our leadership executive committee. And it was in a lot of ways kind of without warning. That's never happened before in Idaho, to my knowledge, to see the party sue itself. And I think it's been a really bad move. It's not good for the Republican Party. It's not good for the volunteers or the organization itself. It relates to a number of different issues that were going on, but a political party has its own internal rules or bylaws, procedures that they operate on. And in any organization like a political party, I think there's going to be some disagreements. But I haven't seen a situation where it turned to a lawsuit to settle those internal disagreements. So it really caught us off guard. That lawsuit hasn't really gone anywhere. The Chairman Luna and his legal team pushed for a preliminary injunction, which was kind of a moot point at that stage because the primary was only a few days away. But it prohibited our county from recommending any candidates or putting out any flyers or publicity. Was kind of water already under the bridge. But beyond that, nothing has really happened on this lawsuit yet. It's kind of hanging over a lot of the volunteers' heads. And we're kind of waiting to see what happens with it.
Okay, so let me now. You guys had made some, you talked about this. You'd made some recommendations, and I believe you guys had actually a lot of the volunteers within the Bonneville County GOP had interviewed a bunch of the candidates, right, from statewide candidates and everything. I mean, you guys had interviewed quite a few candidates, and then you came out with a list of recommendations. And what was covered in the media, for the most part, was, there was a rack card or whatever you want to call it, right? A campaign mailer that was sent out and said, these are the candidates that we recommend. And was the lawsuit primarily over they didn't like that you had endorsed candidates as a central committee? Yeah,
yes and no. And you're right. Our county, along with several other counties in the state this year, as you well know, and everyone in Idaho knows, this was a big Republican primary. There were a lot of different candidates and a lot of different outside groups and lobbyist organizations that were recommending candidates and making voter lists and everything else. As volunteers that make up the county Republican Party, we're precinct officers and we have a responsibility to be informed and understand who the candidates are and be able to inform our neighbors and other Republican voters. And so we put together a candidate committee, if you will. And I'm really proud of the efforts that our county put in. We gathered a committee of both party members and those outside the party, and we spent hundreds of hours. We developed a questionnaire that we sent out to all the candidates, and then we invited each of them to interviews, either personally if they were near us or via Zoom. And we did that for all the candidates on our ballot, from governor all the way down to county coroner. And reached out to each of them. We thanked them all for their willingness to serve or volunteer to be seeking the nomination of the Republican Party. And we spent, like I say, hundreds of hours interviewing and getting questionnaires from these candidates. We looked at their candidate or campaign contributions, looked at their messaging, and we looked at how serious their campaigns were, and kind of gathered together and gathered that information, one, so we could inform ourselves, but then also so we could inform the voters in our county. And in the end, it boiled down to we gathered our central committee together and we had a special meeting and we talked candidly about the different candidates that were on the ballot. And then we left it up to the individual precinct officers from each neighborhood. They decided to take a vote on each one of whether or not we would recommend them as a good candidate to advance the Republican platform. And in some races, we almost recommended a couple in some races because there were some that got good votes. In other races, we didn't recommend any, but at the end, we had a list of recommendations. We put that on a mailer and sent it out. And it ruffled some feathers, I guess. And we first, Chairman Lunar issued a letter. And the narrative coming from the state party kind of changed over time, but he first issued a letter and claimed that our mailer was deceptive. Said that we had implied that it came from the state party, and that it was intentionally deceptive and misleading. And we looked at that, kind of shook our heads, because the mailer that we sent out, obviously I can't show it to you, but it said Bonneville twice on front, twice more on back. It had a logo specifically Bonneville, had the phone number for Bonneville, the website for Bonneville, QR code for Bonneville. It didn't say state anywhere on it. So I don't see how anyone could be misled. We were crystal clear. We had been open about this process that went on for a month or so. So Chairman Luna issued this letter, and the liberals in the press ate it up. They loved it and said, "Oh, look at this fight going on within the Republican Party." And to tell you, I mean, a little bit of a personal story. I was actually in the hospital. My wife was giving birth at the time. And I called Chairman Luna because he wouldn't answer the phone for our chairman at the time and some of our other leaders. And by happenstance, I got a hold of him. He picked up, and I talked to him for 20 minutes and told him, please don't do this. We put good faith efforts into this. We've tried to do what's right. And he didn't have much of it. And about 2 days later, without any more warning, we received the lawsuit. And it was issued, I think, on a Thursday afternoon, and it was sent to the media within about 20 minutes of when it had been filed. And it really caught us all off guard. Not expecting the party to be suing us as volunteers at all.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk. You kind of brought this up just briefly, and so maybe we can touch on this a little bit. Let's talk about the bylaws. You know, because you mentioned there's state bylaws with the state party, and then the county has its own bylaws. And so I think most people watching are going to go, okay, well, did you break a rule within either your county GOP bylaws or the state GOP bylaws? Was there a rule broken by you guys that said you cannot endorse, like the Republican Party does not endorse, it doesn't pick and choose candidates. You can't do that as a county. Is there anything in the bylaws that they are basing this on?
Well, obviously we don't think so. In Bonneville County, I believe we've acted in good faith and tried to do what is within the rules of the party. There's a lot of bylaws and party rules, and obviously some of them are not clear and conflicting. But the state party rules, Chairman Luna's own party rules specifically say, it's, I believe, Article 9, it specifically says that a county central committee can determine the political affiliation and endorse candidates on the ballot in the county. It says a legislative district, of which we have 2, can determine the political affiliation and endorse candidates in the legislative district. Now, beyond the state party rules, the county organizations have, some of them, their own bylaws. And in Bonneville County, we have our bylaws, which are our internal house rules of how we intend to operate. One of the points that they got hung up on there is in our bylaws, it says, or it used to say, that we will take a position in favor of no candidate. That became an issue because our county had donated some money to candidates who were running. It was discussed in our county, and the members of our county committee had decided specifically that donating to candidates was not specifically the same as taking a position in favor of candidates. And in fact, we had several races where we offered to donate to multiple candidates in the same race, afford them the ability to run their campaigns and get their message out. And so that was maybe a precursor a little bit to the question about the flyer that we ended up sending out. I view those as actually 2 different issues. Our county, several months before the primary, had determined to donate some money to candidates. And then entirely separate from that, we had our candidate committee where we reviewed candidates and eventually made some recommendations. One of the things I would point out too is that our county never, quote unquote, attacked any candidates. We thanked all the candidates who were willing to seek the Republican nomination. And we made recommendations of which ones we thought were the best to support the Republican platform. So it's it's a little bit maybe controversial. The question of whether the party itself should be a neutral bystander in our own primary, or whether the party should be more active in reviewing candidates and helping to select those candidates.
Okay.
But I thought it was interesting that Chairman Luna really came down on our county with the intent that every Republican Party official should be completely neutral in primary decisions, which is specifically in contradiction to his own party rules. His own party rules allow for the local party organizations to be involved there and to make some determinations.
So I guess based on what you're saying and based on the rules that you read within your own bylaws, I mean, could someone interpret that and say, "Hey, you guys went against your own bylaws. You should have changed it ahead of time"? I mean, did somebody not see that ahead of time and go, "Hey, maybe we should clear this up and change it because during the primary we really want to become more active in the political process in talking to these candidates. Let's get this changed just to make sure that we don't have any issues"? Or did you guys read that particular part of your bylaw and go, "Hey, it doesn't conflict with what we're trying to do"?
Well, it was discussed at the time. Realize that the bylaws for a county organization, many of the counties don't have specific bylaws. Our county has bylaws that we've written that determine, they're basically our house rules. They say how we intend to conduct our business in our county, but they're entirely internal. They've never been, in fact, until recently, they've never even been shared outside of the county. And so, for one, we thought it was really awkward for the state party chairman to step in and to say that your county, I'm going to enforce your county's own rules against your county. I mean, there are other counties that don't have bylaws and have donated to candidates and have been completely fine. In fact, there, I believe, are 8 or 10 counties across Idaho that donated to candidates in this most recent primary election. And it wasn't an issue, as far as I know, until Chairman Luna decided to make it an issue and come against our county here. But it was discussed. I believe most of our committee knew that was there, and the topic was specifically discussed that a donation to a candidate's campaign is a different thing than an endorsement to that candidate. You see this, say, lobby organizations in many cases donate to candidates on both sides of the aisle because it allows them to have influence to get their message out. And so that was specifically discussed. We didn't view it as an issue. After it was brought up and talked about as an issue from the state party, our county addressed it. We adjusted our bylaws, ratified those donations, and moved forward. And for all intents and purposes, thought the issue was behind us until a month or so later when the chairman sued our county.
Yeah, and he said in part of the lawsuit that, and maybe you can clarify this at least from your perspective, that the flyer that was distributed was, quote, unlawfully distributed a flyer to Idaho voters that violates numerous election laws. And then he goes on. It talks about what you already mentioned regarding the claiming that it looked like endorsements from the state GOP. Yeah. So
yeah,
what election laws are they specifically saying that you guys violated?
Well, like I said, this has kind of been a changing narrative from the state party. At first, the word we got from the chairman is that his policy was he wanted neutrality. And then the next word we got was that that our flyer was violated state election laws. And that was put to bed. The Secretary of State said there's no violation there, and there never was. Then they said that we had implied that it came from the state party. And, that could be put to bed with a quick look at our flyer. It said nothing about the state party, never implied that we were speaking for the state party. And then the narrative revolved again, and he said that he had to sue us because there were potential violations of federal election law, and saying that there needed to be a couple extra words in there to better spell out who had sponsored the flyer. It's been an evolving and changing narrative that, to me, indicates that, and this is my personal opinion, but I think there was an intent to sue and to bring this fight up, regardless of what the details were. It's been constantly changing from detail to detail.
Okay. So a lawsuit is expensive. When the state GOP files a lawsuit against one of its own county GOP central committees, does the state GOP leadership vote on that, or how does that work? And is if this lawsuit goes forward and you end up in this big long court battle, it's extremely expensive, and I don't know how much money the state GOP has right now, but how do they pay for something that expensive for what could be a costly lawsuit if it goes forward?
It is, and that's another great point. From my understanding, the chairman in this case filed the lawsuit on his own. A chairman, at least my understanding, a chairman is to do the will of a committee. So the state party chairman is the chair of the state central committee and the state executive committee. In this case, from all reports, Chairman Luna didn't talk to any other Republican official. He appears to have gone to a donor and gotten funding, and then acted entirely on his own. It's concerning. Each county donates to the state party. We pay our quotas, and if our donations that we gather for the Republican Party are being used to sue us, and not just to sue our county, but to sue several of us volunteers personally, that's extremely concerning and disconcerting to us.
Okay. So he's not using state GOP funds, to your knowledge. He got a donation from somebody?
We don't know. And we haven't seen those legal bills and probably won't for some time. I'm not sure where this will go at this point.
Sure.
The primary election's passed. I don't know why the lawsuit is still ongoing, honestly, or what the motive is here. What's the end game here?
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay.
But we know we know the lawyers. I'm told there are 5 different lawyers that come in from Washington, D.C. They're not cheap.
Okay.
They're not cheap.
Okay. Interesting. And so, what is, I guess, and maybe you can only speak for yourself. What is you've talked somewhat about the mood of the people within the Bonneville Republican Central Committee. What is the mood overall, do you think, on the lawsuit? Have you heard anything from other Republican Central Committees across the state asking about this issue and what happened?
Well, yeah, it's a big topic. Obviously for us, I think I speak for virtually everyone in our Central Committee. They don't like being sued. They don't like their hard work being slandered and attacked in the media. It's a problem though, because there are multiple counties and central committees across Idaho that have done similar things, that have spoken out about candidates that will come up on the ballot, that have made recommendations, that have made donations, and this is a new world. If our state chairman, who we elect to help us coordinate our efforts across the state, if that state chairman is going to sue us and mandate a policy from the top down, to me, it puts all the volunteers in the Republican Party in some form of jeopardy. We're not paid for donating our time into the Republican Party. We're not professionals. We're amateurs. We're donating to a cause because we believe in the principles of the party that we support. And if this sort of conduct continues, there's not going to be a lot of people that want to volunteer, participate in an organization where they can have no influence on candidates, but they can have legal repercussions and the possibility of being sued. Who signs up for that?
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Mr. Contos, is there anything else in closing? Any other message that you would like to put out to either other Republicans or, to anything that you want to, discuss in regard to what maybe something you saw in the media? Is there anything else that you'd want to put out in closing? Well,
I guess if I could get on my soapbox for 1 second, I suppose, I believe strongly in the platform of the Republican Party. That's why I donate my time and money and efforts to it. And I think political parties are important. Working together, we can make a difference. We can petition our government for the change that we desire. And I think it's important that as a organization made up of volunteers, that we conduct ourselves the right way, and that we go about our business the way we should, that we treat each other as we should as volunteers that are working towards a common cause. And this sort of a situation, it's disappointing because it's embarrassing and hurtful to the Republican Party. It hurts the ability of us to solicit volunteers. It hurts the ability of us to solicit donations when they don't know where those donations are going to be going to. People join and participate in the Republican Party because they want an opportunity to make a difference, to be able to help elect good candidates that will advance principles of the Republican platform: lower taxes, less regulation, more support for traditional families. These things, they want to be actively involved in this and be able to make a difference. And it's unfortunate that some of the leadership has chosen to go about things the way they have, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming on and talking about this issue. I think maybe a lot of people will find this interesting. Some people might not. Like we talked about before, it's maybe a little bit
kind of inside baseball, yeah. But the organization of the party, the Republican Party doesn't exist without the volunteers and the organization that make it up. And there's always a lot to work out there.
Okay. All right, sir. Well, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the good.
All right, everybody. That was Nicholas Contos. He is the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee Chairman, and talking about the lawsuit that the Idaho GOP and Chairman Tom Luna personally have filed a lawsuit against the county all the way back just before the primary. That lawsuit is still ongoing. As Mr. Contos said, it's not hasn't currently gone anywhere since it was initially filed. So again, we appreciate all of you guys tuning into the Dispatch, and we hope that you will continue to support the Idaho Dispatch and our future endeavors as we continue to bring you guys the best and hopefully the most unbiased and neutral news that you can get here in the state of Idaho. So thank you, and please be sure to subscribe.